All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another Daily Dose of Dalton episode. Back with our little mini-series, I guess you could call it, of getting back on track, getting caught up after my 485-day hiatus. But, we're going to take it one day at a time, one episode at a time, one topic at a time. And it's all going to be great. And don't have a whole lot to talk about today. But, not everything has to be serious or important. So, let's just get into it. Let's start with the lesson that I've learned. That sometimes you got to take those stories you learned in, junior year history class in high school about the different Greek mythology figures, or not even mythology, but the epics and the stories. Because even though they're made up and we know that, they can still have some application to your everyday life. And me personally, I wish I had paid more attention whenever we talked about Icarus. For those of you who don't know, Icarus was a human that could fly because his father was like an engineer or something, and he made, or maybe he was the engineer, I don't know. Like I said, I didn't pay attention, but he had he made these wings out of feathers and wax and was able to fly around on them and glide around. And he started getting a little too big for his britches, would try to do all these crazy maneuvers, yada yada, start flying higher and higher. And then his dad was like, "Hey son, maybe we should chill out. Maybe you don't fly too close to the sun." And what did Icarus do? In all of his knowledge, he got too cocky. He got, I don't want to say boastful, but he definitely got a little too confident in his abilities. And he was like, "Oh yeah? Well, I'm going to fly even higher." And when Icarus flew too high to the sun, the wax that was holding the wings together melted because of the heat. And when it melted, he came crashing down to the earth. And I think he died there. Like I said, I didn't pay attention. I was more of a Beowulf fan anyways. But, yeah, I learned that lesson the hard way back in the fall. So back August, November, whenever the NFL season started, because Austin Davis hosted again a fantasy football league for Harding's PT school. And it started off really bad for me. I thought I had a really solid draft. And I don't have my guys up here, but the people I drafted and the slots I drafted them in, you would think, oh yeah, it's pretty solid. But in a 16-man league where a third of the people, maybe even half, don't take it seriously, it gets a lot harder to be able to play. And started off like 2-4, or I started off 1-4 or something. I was like, it's over. My season's over. I was at the bottom of the rankings. I was tied for last place. And it was over. And I was like, okay, whatever. And then all of a sudden things started clicking. Well, let me say that some of it might have been my own doing, that I was doing bad. Because, I started Joe Burrow, and then Joe Burrow goes down. And so I don't have a quarterback. That was my third pick in the draft, was Joe Burrow. He's done for almost a year. My other quarterback was Dak Prescott. And so I put Dak Prescott in, picked up Russell Wilson off the waivers, and had him on my bench. And then Dak Prescott, the next week, has like 6 points, I think, or 5 points. And Russell Wilson on my bench had like 40 points. So in my head, I'm like, Russell Wilson's back. It was Sean Payton was the problem in Denver. Let me start Russell Wilson and just keep Dak Prescott on the bench. Then the next week, they both just do terrible. And it's like none of my guys could all have good weeks on the same week. And so it was just rough overall. So I'm 1-4, and I just start making, as soon as I trade away people, I trade away Dak Prescott. As soon as I trade him away, he starts playing at the top of his game. And I'm like, well, that just sucks. And so I gave up on it and just started trying to make trades for fun, do whatever. And then all of a sudden I started winning. I went on like a 6-game win streak, or 5-game win streak, and then ended up just barely scraping by to make the playoffs. And I made the playoffs, but I'll be honest, some of the trades I made were probably unethical. And I know that because Grant and Adrian both told me that they were unethical and they were crap. And Adrian said, if you were in our league, I would have declined those trades. And I said, don't hate the player, hate the game. Just to get socked in the mouth a week later. I probably assembled the best roster in the entire league just to come out there and just get absolutely socked in the mouth. Just, got absolutely surprised, gotten absolutely obliterated. I lost by like 70 points in the first round of the playoffs. And part of that might have been because I was too confident. Going around saying things like, there's no way I don't win. I started getting cocky, and I would trade or pick up players who had one good week and would trade and convince people to give me their best players for that guy. And I'd be like, you're out of the playoffs. You don't care. Just send them over my way anyways. And because it's not like a franchise league, so it didn't really matter. And, I think that's just, there's just a whole bunch of stories that could tie into this. I'm definitely Icarus, but I think the other one was that some story about integrity and doing things the right way. Oh, right is right and wrong is nothing. Shout out Kevin Phillips. And, I really can't think of the other ones. All those childhood lessons were years ago. They're out of my brain now. But I'm sure they'll come back around as soon as I stop recording and I'll think about it. And, I really just am Icarus. That's all that really is the point of this story. Got overconfident. I was talking crazy, just out of my butt to other people, talking trash, and then got humbled very quickly. And, that's just part of life, and that's okay. And I can live with that, but next year will be different. I don't know how. I don't know why. I know there's no point in even trying to do homework or get prepared for it, because Austin was in a similar situation as I was. He spent a whole lot of time. Well, I didn't put a whole lot of time into prep. I just went off vibes for the draft, but he had all this planned out, strategic, went about it the super analytical way, and then was at the bottom of the leaderboard at one point with me when somebody who auto drafted and hadn't changed their lineup in 7 weeks was 6-1 at the very top of it. So who knows? I might just let Courtney draft for me next year and just pick based off who she thinks looks the nicest or has the prettier eyes. So if she's going based off who's nicest, I guess I'm picking Kirk Cousins with the first pick. So who knows? Maybe it'll work out. He's a good locker room guy. Good environment. Good team leader. Speaking of team leaders, somebody who's not being a good one. Dr. Rabinovich from the Pitt. I don't know if y'all have seen the Pitt, but the Pitt might be one of the best medical shows I've ever seen. Genuinely, it feels real. The new episode came out last night, and Courtney came in, and there was a situation where one of the, not to, I guess, spoiler warnings, but not really spoiler, but one of the nurses got attacked and got put in a headlock, and they had rush security in there, and they're like, code hula hoop and assault. And Courtney's like, why do you want to watch this? It's so dark. I'm like, it's not dark, baby. It's just real. This stuff happens, and everybody I know in the medical field, they're like, oh yeah, that's a super accurate representation of what happens in the ER or ED, whatever you want to call it. I just don't prefer calling it ED because that stands for something else in my mind. But the emergency department, they're like, yeah, that's real. And now they say it doesn't happen at the volume that it does. It's they have crazy days, but it's not, and they see all of those events. It's just not all typically in one day. But it's TV, it's Hollywood, so you got to do something for it. And I just really enjoy it. I just hate that it releases on Thursday nights and not when I'm trying to study for an exam, and I'm like, I just want to watch the Pitt. I just want to watch and see what's happening right now. I need to know. But anyways, yeah, no. So it does a really good job of following what treatment's like, how is in the emergency department, how the medical world is right now, and I think that I'm kind of liking it right now too, because you definitely see a lot of the problems with insurance on it. Now, I don't want to be one of those guys who, let's talk about insurance. I'm not Dave Ramsey or whoever talks about insurance. I know he talks about money. But after talking about insurance more in healthcare business, I'm kind of seeing how it comes into play with the medical decisions and how they go about things and, this, that, and the third. So it's kind of more like applicable now to me. And also, now that I've taken diagnostic imaging, or that I'm in the class currently, that I'll kind of stop and pause and look at the x-rays they show. And I'm like, let me see if I can see anything. Usually I can't tell because, again, diagnostic imaging is not my strong suit for classes, but that's okay. But that's what I'm saying, but a lot. I'm going to try to chill out on that. Anyways, yeah, no, so the Pitt is just really good. And I really like it because they don't, well, each episode is an hour. And so starting off this season, it was like 7 a.m. Then episode 2 was 8 a.m. Episode 3, 9 a.m. And so on and so forth. And they did that last season too. And really, I kind of just like that flow. It's like not all these time jumps. It's not things changing. It's not following these big, long, crazy arcs. It's just a day in the life. It's just watching that. And the best thing about it is that it's like a medical drama, yes, but it's drama that's actually focused on like the medicine and the treatment and like real problems, like, painkiller addiction and abuse, and, paying off student loans, people refusing treatment, having to find alternative methods because of religious beliefs or, accessibility. And it's just nice. It's a breath of fresh air compared to the other medical dramas that are like Grey's Anatomy. Or I like Grey's Anatomy when it first came out. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. But I do think that it got a little too caught up in the wokeness of everything. And the Pitt still definitely has its woke moments, don't get me wrong. They just had an episode with ICE agents and were condemning them and yada, yada, yada. But I'm not going to get into that because this isn't a political show. And I'm not going to dive into that rabbit hole. That's a trap waiting to happen. But yeah, no, they had a furry on there too, but it wasn't like a... Furries are the best thing ever. It was just somebody who was there and just happened to be at a furry thing, but it wasn't like a... Furries are the best thing ever. We should do this. And it's more natural. And it's like, yeah, you're going to have some weirdos that come in, but also you got a whole bunch of normal people too. So that's really, I think, what makes the show good. It's not focused on romance. It's not focused on the crazy thing. Like, they don't have bombs in patients, and they don't have these crazy procedures that are being done because of some, groundbreaking research. Like, it's more grounded and realistic than Grey's Anatomy or some of these other shows. And I think that's what makes it so good. The problem is that you'll get on TikTok and see all these ships and wantings to happen among the characters. And I'm like, are we watching the same show? And it's like these people are trying to watch the Pitt through the lens of a Grey's Anatomy, like, perspective. Like, oh, when are these doctors going to hook up? Or, oh, when is this person going to confess to this person? Or like, I wish that these people would be together. And not every show needs that. Not every show needs romance and sex and, sexual appeal to be good. Like, there's nothing skimpy about how these doctors dress. They're all in scrubs and hoodies. There's nobody who's like super dressed to the nines. Or is it the tens? I think it's to the nines, but anyways, and that's just an issue with it. I'm like, why are you having to bring all this into it? And there's a couple characters. So there's Dr. Langdon, who is married and is coming back from rehab in season 2. And then there's his doctor who she isn't, I think she has Asperger's. She's not like severely autistic, but I think she has Asperger's. And people are like, oh, I'm shipping them together. Like this is such a good slow burn. He's married and has kids. Like, just because a guy is nice and just because he went out of his way to be kind to the other doctor's sister who has autism doesn't mean they're going to get together. And then there's 2 other doctors, Dr. Mohan and Dr. Abbott. And Dr. Abbott's literally wearing a wedding ring. And everybody's like, oh, I can't wait for them to get together. Not keep it in your pants. Not everything has to be about that. If you want it to be about that, go watch 50 Shades of Grey or whatever other shows are like that, or movies. You don't have to bring that into every aspect of everything. And I guess that's just me, getting more aware of because the saying, sex sells, and that's what most of Hollywood is. They have all these unnecessary scenes, all these unnecessary moments that have nothing to do with the plot. Like, I heard from some classmates, I won't call you out on it, but they're like, oh yeah, One Battle After Another was such a good movie. And I'm like, okay, well, Saturday night, got nothing else going on. Let me watch One Battle After Another. I don't know how that movie won any awards. Maybe because it went against everything I stand for morally, but they were romanticizing terrorism and terrorist groups. They were supporting illegal actions. I'm not going to spoil anything, but something they're going after, they're like, yeah, we got to stop this because blah, blah, other people, like, they're criminals. At the end of the day, call a spade, they're criminals. Not a big deal, okay? But they're just romanticizing all these things you should be going against. And then there's just like a 20-minute section where it's just Leonardo DiCaprio and the other chick, I don't know her name, but they're just hooking up. And it's not like they start kissing, the door closes. Like, they are, it's not full frontal nudity, but it's not nothing either. And I'm like, what's the point? What is it? How does it serve any purpose to the story? And also the story overall, I don't know what the deal was with the story. Didn't make any sense to me. It was very lost the whole time. And I just thought it was a crappy movie. And I just don't get how it won any awards. But that's just me on my soapbox. Anyways, back to it. The Pitt's got, I think, 3 more episodes season. Yeah, they got 13, 14, 15. And there's a lot of theories going around about it right now that are concerning about characters who may die. But then again, you got to think, this is not Grey's Anatomy. This is not Chicago Med. This is not, I don't know, what's some other medical, The Good Doctor. This is not, what's that one? It has Logan in it from Gilmore Girls. The Resident. But yeah, I don't think they're just going to kill people just for the dramatic effect. But I could be wrong. That could be what's happening. Who knows? But anyways, what do I know? But if you like Grey's Anatomy, then good for you. Whatever floats your cookie. I know that doesn't really make sense. But Mr. Benton, my freshman year chemistry professor in undergrad, he would say that a lot. He'd say, whatever floats your cookie. Somebody would ask him a question, be like, do you want us to go to the 10th decimal place or the 100th or round to the whole number when we're solving these equations? And he'd go, whatever floats your cookie. Or if it was a girl, he'd say, whatever blows your skirt up. And I don't necessarily agree with that. I really don't. I mean, I wouldn't say that to a lady. I'd probably say that to a guy if he was, you know, if I wanted to be disrespectful, if I wanted to diss him, as the kids say. But he was just such a cranky old man. He told us that he didn't care about being there and that he was just there to pay off his truck. And that was very evident when he was grading one of my exams. And said exam had a question at the end that I had no idea how to solve. It was some type of equation, and I could not remember the formula for the life of me, or I couldn't remember like a certain value. It was something along those lines. And instead of writing out a whole bunch of stuff showing work, I went through the exam and I calculated, okay, I know for a fact I got these right. I can make a B on this, even if I'd get no credit for this question that's worth like 5 points. So I'm okay. I'm good. And so all I wrote on there was, I don't remember the equation. I'm not going to waste your time with a bunch of nonsense or useless math. Have a good weekend. And I'll just do like a smiley face next to it. And he would call out your name so I come up and like grab your test. And he came, when I went up there, he said, "You're a funny guy, aren't you?" And I said, "So that's the rumor." And he said, "You're lucky I found it funny." He said, "Next time they'll know your equations." And I said, "Yes, sir." And then I went back and I looked, and my grade was, I got full credit for that question. I got full credit for that question. And he wrote, I looked at the very last page, and he wrote, "Ha ha, good one," exclamation mark, and then did, and wrote +5 next to it. And so I got full credit for it. And that just confirmed for me that he really did not care about being there. He just wanted to pay off his new truck and go on with his life. And the older I get, the more I understand that. Because I think I've officially reached unk status. And there's a couple reasons why I think I reached unk status. Number one, I just feel old. Again, it's that quarter life crisis coming on. But there was a couple weeks ago, I was so tired, I looked at Courtney, I was like, "Is it too early for us to go to bed?" And it was 7:15. Granted, it was before the sun started setting at, 7:30 again, but I was like, man, that's crazy. And I found myself just being grumpy. I'm like, ugh. Because I think last week, it was like 6 o'clock at night. Me and Courtney were trying to eat dinner or watch a show or something, and there was a bunch of kids outside playing. And I was like, oh, I wish those kids would keep it down, being too loud out there. I was like, what am I doing? Should be glad that the kids are not sitting there with the iPad screen in their face and are playing outside like kids. But I was like, keep those kids off my lawn. And it's like, man, I'm getting old. I'm just getting old and cranky. And that's not really the only reason. I'm not in the shape I used to be in. I mean, I know that happens when you get older. Not even the shape, but just the physical capabilities that I used to have. I mean, when I was in high school, I used to be able to run 6 miles a day and work out 2 times a day and still be able to eat junk food, get little to no sleep, go to a full day of classes, practice, whatever else you can think, extracurricular activities, whatever else you can think of, and get up and do it again the next day. And now if I, stay up too late, I'm down for the count for the next few days. It's just ridiculous. And very, very humbling, I might add, too, because, sometimes in my head, I'm still that 17-year-old guy who was capable of doing all those things, and my brain still thinks I'm an athlete. I'm like, yeah, I can go out and do that. I could go do that right now. And then I try, and I'm like, my body just disagrees immediately, and I'm just humbled right there on the spot. Because, let me think, back in like October, I think, early October, I was playing flag football with some of my classmates for intramurals, and was doing okay. And I was playing quarterback. Guy tries to throw the ball back to Mason, who's the center. Goes over his head. I just reach out, try to stop it like a reaction, an instinct, and the ball hit my thumb and just snapped it backwards, and it immediately swelled up. It immediately got puffy, and I was like, "Oh my god!" And for the next 3 weeks, my thumb was just swollen and bruised. And I got an X-ray. They're like, "Yeah, no break, but you definitely tore some ligaments in there." And I had to wear a splint like an old man, like a little thumb splint that went right here and kept me from moving my thumb too much, and was a hard shell on it. And I'm like, you don't even see 80-year-olds wearing this. This is like what people in their 90s wear. And here I am right now. It's just, that's just really sad. And then last week, Austin asked me to come out and play intramural basketball because they needed another person. And we only had 5 guys when I decided to go. And so we had to play the whole time, and they do 2 20-minute halves. I'm like, okay, 40 minutes, and that's not bad. I'll just take it slow, keep a nice steady pace, not overdo it. Wrong. I'd say maybe 90 seconds in, after running, I was like, by 10 minutes in, I was doubled over in the corner looking at the guy guarding me. I was like, hey, man, I'm not moving. If I run anymore, I fucking want to throw up. So let's just hang out here. He's like, okay, cool. I'm fine. I'm sitting there doubled over, hands on my knees, just the whole second half, I had a cramp in my ribs trying to run around. It got to the point where I would just stand there sometimes, and I would just walk and be like, oh, Jack's going down the court. Jack is running. Okay, I'm just going to stay down here. I'm just going to wait, catch my breath. And just like the whole time, I'm like, I'm trying to stretch out the cramp in my ribs. And if you think that's bad, the biggest thing that got me, that really just said, hey man, you're getting old, you need to start taking care of your body, was I was playing ping pong with Zach. That's nothing out of the normal for me. Me and Zach played a few games over the last 2 years. Won't say how many, but whenever we study up at the school, it's like every hour and a half, we go play a game or two to get our blood flowing and get, legs up and moving, so we aren't sitting there for 5 hours at a time. And I'm sitting there, and I go, and I just go to backhand the ball, and when I do, my back, I just felt it lock up, and it was a sharp pain, and I just buckled, and I was like, it felt like I got the air knocked out of me. And I was like, okay, something happened. Either I, herniated the disc, dislocated a rib, which I've done a couple times just over the last few years. I've just had a rib that will pop out every now and then, just have to get it pushed back in. Well, my mind immediately went to the worst. I'm like, I'm literally dying. I might have paralyzed myself. I don't know. And it turns out all it was a pulled muscle. But I had to go home and lay on a heating pad for an hour, maybe hour and a half, just so that I could move without there being pain. But I was like, oh, this is terrible. And I had to sleep laying on my back. It's like just straight up like a board, like, that's just sad. Ping pong is not a high risk game. It's not something that is dangerous that you have to sign consent forms for. The most dangerous thing about ping pong is typically when I lose and my paddle goes flying across the room. That's typically the most dangerous part. And I was like, oh my God, I couldn't even move my arms because of how bad it was hurting from where I pulled that muscle. And it's really sad now. It's sad what my life has come to. Just getting older sucks. I think there's a poet out there who sums it up pretty well. Think it's I'm much too young to feel this darn old. And that's not the actual lyrics to the great poet of Garth Brooks. But, we try to keep this channel PG, mostly. So maybe PG-13. There's some content matter that I discussed that may not always be PG. But here we are. that's just how we're going to rock and roll. And I'm sorry if I offend anybody by quoting an alleged murderer and serial killer. That's right. Bet you didn't know that. Where are the bodies, Garth? Where are they? But no, that's a pretty interesting theory, though, too. Because apparently somebody went through on a map and there's days that people went missing lined up with tour dates of his. And they say that if you're going to get away with murder, that the best chance you have is if you do it when you're like on vacation or at a remote place, or like not remote place, but somewhere far away from where you live, because they won't suspect you. They'll check locals first or something, and the case will go cold. That's just what I've heard through the grapevine, though. Not that I have any experience with that. So, yeah, that's really all I got right now. That kind of sums it up. I'm Icarus. The Pitt's great. And I might not be old, but I'm definitely not young anymore. And I'm okay with that, I guess. So I appreciate you watching or listening if you still have to this point. If you didn't enjoy it, keep it to yourself. And I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for listening.